Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Sad afternoon listening to the news before we get here. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Green.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please let's stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Burton?
Here.
Ms. Green?
Here.
Dr. Henderson?
Here.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levenstein? Ms. Maida?
Here.
Ms. Mineo?
Here.
Mr. Stridiron? Mr. Walker?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose. Matter made confidential under FERPA, employment history of particular individuals, matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, the review and programs and placements of students with disabilities, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, NTA, NASA, CSCA, discussion regarding current litigation, LB versus New Bergen Large City School District, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Maida?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes. We'll be back in about an hour.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Education members, senior staff members, and Newburgh community members. I hope everyone's doing well. We're here to talk briefly about some of these accomplishments and special moments experienced in athletics this year. So let's begin. Okay, some of the team accomplishments. We have cheerleading this year in a couple competitions. They placed first in Valley Central tournament as well as third in the Warwick tournament. We have wrestlers, some state qualifiers. We have Cooper Murley, Jackson Murley, and Anthony Manzi. I'm not sure if they're here today. They're not. Who also placed as wrestling state qualifiers. And our boys basketball team won the Section 9 championship this year, as well as, yeah. And our unified basketball finished 4-4. They're a force to be reckoned with, as always. Okay. Our football team won the Section 9 championships. We also have some, okay. We have NFA senior Angelise Diaz. She broke the school record. The record was at 9 feet. She actually broke the record twice. She pole votes. She pole voted 10 feet, and just recently she just pole voted 10 feet, 3 inches. She's the new record holder here at NFA track. And we also have Mark and Josh Yan. Can you please stand? These young men, 8th and 10th graders, they're first and second in the OCIA county championships. Today at the sectionals, after the first round, they finished tied for first place. So with that being said, yeah. With that being said, they're moving on to the second round. And if they continue to play as well they're playing, then we're moving on to the states as well. So as we can see, the golf team for Newburgh's future is looking pretty bright. So this one is a couple of individual accomplishments. We have some Section 9 Player of the Years. Unfortunately, Deja Simmons could not be here, so we will start out with Jalakai King. Can you please come up for a second? Okay. And Ms. Fletcher, who is the athletic admin intern, can you help me present some of these awards? And Madam President, we would like if you were able to come also and help present some of these awards. Thank you. Okay, Jalakai, pass it to Madam President. Here we go. Jalikai stand right here, and we'll have Madam President pass it to you. So make sure she gets the awards. Give her the award. Yeah. Give her the award now. Now goes to receive the award. Section 9, Boys Basketball Player of the Year, Jalikai King. And Javier Rodriguez could not be here today, but he was also the soccer boys Section 9 Player of the Year, but he was also two-time All-American and two-time First State and back-to-back Section 9 Player of the Year, Javier Rodriguez. Next up, our Section 9 Football Player of the Year, DeAndre Johnson. Up next, we have our OCIA, which is Orange County Interscholastic Athletic Association Scholar Athletes. First up, we have Roberto Reed. Roberto Reed will be attending RIT Rochester Institute of Technology and majoring in computing security. Next up, we have our valedictorian, Megan Cameron. She will be attending Princeton University and majoring in molecular biology. Thank you. Okay. We also had a couple college commitments. As you can see, there are a lot of college commitments this year, and they're continuing as our season keeps going. We have had 4 Division I commitments, 8 Division II, and 2 Division III college commitments currently as of right now. I need you. Thank you. And next up is we're going to talk about some of our coaches' accomplishments. Okay, first up, we will have Mr. Billy Bianco. Okay, you go up there. Mr. Bianco is, he has the most wins in NFA history, and he's the Section 9 AA Coach of the Year. Next up, we have Mr. Frank DiNocenzio. Say it right? I did it right? You said it right. He is our Boys Basketball Section 9 Coach of the Year. Next up, we have Mr. Arturo Santana. He is the Girls Basketball Section 9 Coach of the Year. And without further ado, we have, it says Section 9, but he was the Orange County OCIA Coach of the Year in Boys Golf, Mr. James Nee. Thank you very much. We're good. Okay. Also, we still have Newburgh Athletics continuing to play, so I just want to speak about that briefly. We have Arav Shah. He's on the boys tennis team. Tomorrow he will be playing in the sectional semifinals. So also we have our baseball team, which is the current league champions for Section 9 with regular season. So we're back-to-back. We won it last year, and they're playing Kingston tomorrow at 4 p.m. in order to go to the Section 9 championship finals on Saturday. We also have our crew. Crew just wrapped up another successful season. Hudson Valley Rowing, we are back-to-back champs as well, so our crew team did well on the water. And I just want to take the time out just go. We have all our coaches on here. Just want to say thank you to the fall coaches, winter coaches, and the spring coaches. Just want to say thank you to the coaches for your time, dedication, and commitment to our scholar athletes, helping them on and off the field. Appreciate your dedication. Thank you very much, all the coaches, all season. And please, can we give these scholar athletes, coaches, and parents a round of applause? And I want to also thank you for your support to the senior staff, Board of Ed members, and the Newburgh community members. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Board members, as the athletes and their parents and coaches leave, we have no one signed up to speak for agenda items, but we do have a few people signed up to speak for non-agenda items. I'd like to suggest that we move them up to now. Is that okay? I'd like to see a thumbs up if that's okay. Okay, thank you. So we're going to do non-agenda items right now for those of you who have young children and need to go. Okay, so we're now at the section of the agenda for public discussion and comments on non-agenda items. Please refer to the regulations regarding discussion and comment, and the 5-minute timer is there. So the first one, Mr. Otren, oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Ms. Wait, hang on one second. I missed somebody first. Ms. Courtney Allen is first, and you're third. Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Oh, okay, I'll say it again. Good evening. Why, thank you. My name is Courtney Allen. My daughter is a student in this district, and I'm a lifelong resident here in the city of Newburgh. I came here tonight because I have a major issue with the way that the incident on the 25th of April, I guess it was the 25th into the 26th of April, when there was, where there was some threats towards Black students in this district. I feel like there was no follow-up to it. We're still hanging in the balance. And I feel like, what is that saying to our Black students in this city, in this area? Do we care about them? What's going on? Like, there has been no communication from that day on. From what I was told, I called my daughter's school the other day. She goes to NFA North. And I was told that it became a city of Newburgh issue because the person who posed the threat is a 22-year-old woman within the community. So I went to the city council meeting last night, and I was told something completely different. I was told that it was a school matter. So now I'm confused, so which is it? And why do I have to go digging, looking for any information on this, when again, this was a public matter, and someone should be saying something. I don't care what it is. My nerves should be calmed. I shouldn't have to worry about my daughter going to school and getting attacked. We see what happened in Buffalo last week. And initially, from what I've heard, the young man in Buffalo who committed that heinous act did threats like this, and they went undone, unnoticed, or swept under the rug. Is that what's going on here? I can't feel comfortable enough sending my daughter or any other Black student or any students at that, not knowing exactly what's going on, or not even exactly what's going on. Give us some kind of communication on what's going on. Then we have today with the 14 students in Texas. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. We live in a world where we can't just sweep these things under the rug and expect them to go away. And I don't know if that's what's going on here, but I, for one, I'm not happy with the way things have been handled. I don't know if you guys can respond back at this moment. I don't know how this works, but I, for one, I'm not happy. From what I was told last night, according to the mayor of Newburgh, he said, oh, the school district, they did everything they were supposed to do. They communicated. We got robocalls. I got one robocall saying that there was a 2-hour delay. Now, that to me was a slap in the face when I got the call, because I'm just like, wait a minute. Why is there a 2-hour delay and they're threatening black students? Or even if it was any type of student, why is there only a 2-hour delay? What is that telling our kids? Oh, we'll clean this mess up within 2 hours? Like, I don't like how this was handled to begin with. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where the lack of communication between the police department, the city of Newburgh, and the school district has failed us, but it definitely has failed us because no one else knows. Has anyone in this audience heard any follow-up to what's happened? No. So I need answers. I need to know what's going on for my daughter's safety, for other students' safety, and also to let our black students know in this district, yes, we care about you. Black lives matter. And I know we're tired of hearing Black Lives Matter, but come on now. What are we saying to our students if there's no follow-up information to it? We're just sending them back into the fire. What's going on here? That's all.
Thank you. The next person we have signed up is Ms. Francella Palmer.
Hello, my name is Francella Palmer, and I have a son. He goes to Guinea Avenue Memorial School, GAMS. There was an incident that happened with him on May 11th where he had drawn a picture in art class, and the art teacher thought that the picture was of some concern. So she questioned my son at that time, and then later took him to see the caseworker. The caseworker then questioned my son, and they both said the same thing that my son said the picture was. I was then notified by the caseworker, in which we had a conversation, and there was no concerns to move forward with that. The caseworker told me I didn't have anything to worry about and reassured me that everything was fine. So I asked her at this time if the picture could be sent home so I could see, what everything was going on was about. The next day, 2 police officers showed up at my house. Evidently, the police were called by the school's principal, Ms. LaJericho. At this time, I then called the school social worker to ask her what was going on, because I believe they were following protocol, and that's why she had contacted me, and I was notified by her that there was no areas of concern. So I don't understand why 2 cops showed up at my house to do a wellness check on my 7-year-old son who drew a picture in art. Now, at this time, the caseworker let me know that she did not call the police, and I then found out through the grapevine that the school's art teacher did not think that what the caseworker said was suffice. So she then took my son's art picture and went around the school and started a smear campaign against my 7-year-old son because she thought something needed to be done. The principal then heard about it through the grapevine, and without even reaching out to the art teacher or the school social worker or myself as a parent, which me and Ms. LaJericho have spoken on a number of occasions with different things pertaining to my children. So I have every reason to believe that I should be able to trust her, and with a matter this serious, she could have reached out to me. Nevertheless, she chose to call the police instead. Now, I did ask what was the policy on this matter, and I still have yet to receive that. I still have not heard back from, I did do a call with Mr. Forget as well as Ms. Peterson. Ms. LaJericho did not reach out to me till almost a week later, and I still have yet to hear from the art teacher. This matter happened maybe about 2 weeks ago. So my question to the school is, and they told me that this is under investigation, but these people are still working in the school. So my question is, with all this going on, I cannot trust this school because if through the grapevine, the police could be sent to my house for my 7-year-old son, and they did enter my house without a warrant, but we'll handle that matter. Nevertheless, how am I supposed to trust my son? I'm sure he's going to have, I believe it's a B or a C day that he has art with this same art teacher. How am I going to trust this principal? Like, how do I move forward from this? And these people are still working in the school. Don't you think they should have been suspended until the investigation was done? Don't you think something should have been taken place? My son is traumatized, and he is home. And I stopped him from going to school because all of a sudden, every time he comes home, he keeps telling me he's a good boy. And I know my son's a good boy because I've raised him all these years. And I'm a full-time mother, and I let that be known to the school. As well as I go to work full-time, I'm a full-time mother. And I would like to be notified, and I would like to be present anytime my child is going to be questioned. And my son, my children, some of them are disabled. So that brings even more attention to the reason why I would like to be present or notified first before they are spoken to by any adult other than me. And constantly the school has overlooked this. I've asked them this constantly. And I do see now as I sit here tonight, my son has been racially profiled. And this started when he was in kindergarten. And I can prove that. And I thank y'all for y'all time. And y'all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Otrin Williams.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Otrin Williams. I live here in the city of Newburgh my whole life. That's my sister and my family over here. I don't like coming to things like this. I don't even want to be here tonight. But the situation is so dire that I don't understand how somebody isn't making a big deal about it. As a black man in this country, it took over 400 years for this country to recognize any right of a black man. And for a school system to just throw somebody's rights away? Now, who's guarding this kid's rights? This kid has a right. Listen, when I send my kid to school, when he's at home, I'll protect him. All of his rights. Whatever it is, I'm going to protect him. When I send him to school, I expect him to be protected too. Who is protecting this kid's rights? Who gave the authority for anybody to talk to this kid without the presence of his parents, especially if you was going to bring the police into the matter? Now, this isn't even a criminal matter, but somebody called the police. Did anybody think, hey, maybe we need to call a parent? What's going on here? We can't question it. If this was a legal courtroom, you couldn't even talk to him without his parent and possibly his lawyer being there. So why is somebody talking to a 7-year-old special needs kid who's very impressionable about what's going on? He drew a picture of a cop. Now, I've seen all the other pictures he drew. I can't even determine what it is. The only reason why I know it's a cop is because he got a red crayon and a blue crayon. But it doesn't matter about that. Nobody here's ever been assaulted with a picture of a gun. Nobody's here been assaulted with the picture of a knife. So how does this picture become something so great? I know several people in this school district who's been sent home for having weapons in school. Ain't no police showed up at their door. So why all of a sudden now that it's a young black youth, the police is showing up at the parents' door? For what? There's nobody even mentioned anything about the inkling of a crime or the thought of a crime taking place. What is this, a smear campaign? Put something on his record so that if something happens when he's 18 years old, they can always say, oh, well, there was an incident at the school back 10 years ago. Because they're never going to give you all the information, just an incident at the school. Now, somebody's going to take out, oh, there was an incident at the school. It must have been something really, really big. So, oh, he's a problem. He's a problem child. No, the problem is the school system. When the school system can decide that they can make better choices than the parents can, that is a problem. That's a problem. That's my child. I have the right to make the decisions in his life until he's grown and he's on his own. Not the school system, not nobody else. And because he didn't commit a crime and he's not sitting in a jail somewhere or anything like that, that's all the more reason why the school could have picked up the telephone and called. I got a telephone now. I barely know how to use it. But I'm quite sure there's plenty of phones up there with all you scholars. Y'all know how to pick up a phone. And if you're sitting there and you know that one of your coworkers is doing it and you ain't picking up the phone, you're part of the problem too. Amen. This is crazy. How do a kid get sent home from school because he drew a picture in art class? Now, what the funny part about it is, all of a sudden, nobody wants to show the picture. Why is that? I want to see this picture that this special needs 7-year-old kid drew. See, what's so spectacular about it that needed the police to be called to somebody's house? What's so spectacular about it where the the principal of the school can say, hey, we follow policy and procedure. Is it policy and procedure for the school to question your child without you being present? I mean, in the criminal justice system, you have the right to a lawyer. A 7-year-old have a right to his parents. He can't make those decisions. That's what his parents is for. So the only thing I'm asking today is, when I send my kid off to school, guard him in his rights. Don't make decisions for me. I can make all the decisions in my child's life until he's grown. And if you don't like the decisions I made, then you know what you do then? You call me. Call me. I'm the first one that you need to talk to when you're dealing with my child. You don't need to talk to my child. You don't need to talk to search warrant. Police shows up at the door, we're doing a wellness check. Well, the last time I checked, when the police do a wellness check, that's because somebody ain't seen a 90-year-old grandmother in 3 weeks and they're not sure if she's alive. Can I send the police there to see if they're
Mr.
alive?
Williams.
If a wellness check is being done in the
Mr.
school
Williams.
system-
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
hello.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
Ms.
your
Lyle.
5 minutes are up.
Okay, sure, no problem.
So, thank you.
All right,
Thank
can
you
I get
very much.
30 more seconds, 10 seconds? All right, that's fine.
Because I got to go to the next person. I'm sorry. I believe the next person is Sade Burns. Tell me your last name, please, ma'am. Burks. It's Sade Burks. Burks, okay, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sade Burks. My son is a student at Horizons on the Hudson. His name is Justice. He's right there. He's 6 years old. I'm here just like all the other parents with concerns of the policy for the gun policy in school. There's a policy that if your kids draw a picture of a gun, or my son made guns with Legos, he's being written up, or I'm getting calls home or letters home that Justice is writing, building guns with the Legos. And, because of all the incidents with the shootings in the school, this is a no tolerance. And, the next time, there will be actions taken. My question is, I've never seen a policy on guns being drawn or being played with Legos in school, that there could be repercussions for it. And then my other thing is that there's guns all around. There's guns on TV. There's guns on these children's games. There's toy guns. There's Nerf guns. There's computers in the school now. You can't go on YouTube without something popping up of guns. So how can we recommend a 6-year-old about playing with Legos with a gun if there's guns all splattered all over the TV and there's toy guns for the kids? How are you recommending a 6-year-old? Another issue that I have is that his 504 meeting was done in October of 2021. His 504 meeting just got his 504 plan just got finalized a week ago. This is after there's been multiple incidents with a specific teacher in this school that has been harassing and bullying him, that I've made complaints, multiple emails that I've written, and I've made complaints and nothing was done. This teacher has even had physical altercation with my son, where she's put her hands on my son, and I wrote an email and nothing was done about this because supposedly nothing was seen. And then my son was questioned without me being there. And then it was told to me that he said that she didn't do it. Well, of course, a 6-year-old is going to be intimidated if there's all adults around him asking him a question. So yes, he's going to withdraw his story. After that, there was another incident with the same teacher. And this time, I took it upon myself to not only write the principal, but to write the school psychologist, because, you know, he has a 504 that is drafted on him because he is diagnosed with ADHD. So I wrote the school psychologist, the school principal. I CC'd his educational advocate, his therapist. I CC'd Mr. Forget. And then something was done. And then I was told that the teacher wouldn't be in the same lunch period with my son. That teacher is still in the same lunch period with my son. I have stated that my son stated that he feels uncomfortable with the teacher. He does not know why she doesn't like him. This is coming from a 6-year-old. So he is intimidated by her. My son has enough to deal with. Not only is he trying to deal with and navigate how to get through this world with ADHD and hypertension, he lost his beloved grandfather, who was a beloved member of this community, Mr. Michael Williams, who has donated to the Newburgh Ministry, who has helped out coaching and all sorts of other things in the community. So you're dealing with a 6-year-old who is dealing with the loss of his beloved grandfather, who is dealing with ADHD. I'm dealing with the loss of my beloved father, and all this is being done to my 6-year-old. I show up to that school every time they call me. When my son does something, I'm notified about him doing something because he's aggressive. I don't understand how a 6-year-old can be aggressive, but that is a term that they use for my son. I don't understand how I'm notified about all the wrongdoings that he's doing, but I'm not notified when the teacher puts her hands on my son or my son is questioned without me being there. That is my concern. How do I still feel safe sending my son to school when that teacher is not even supposed to be in the same lunch period with him, and he just told me today she's in the same lunch period with him? How do we feel safe sending our kids to school? What can you guys do to make us feel safe sending our kids to school? Thank you.
Carla Johnson Brody.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Johnson. I'm a very well-known advocate for the city of Newburgh. I sit on the police review board. I sit on the water board. So I'm in the community, and there's a lot of young children that I know in the community, and my child is having problems. She goes to Horizon School. Personally, I like Horizons, Mr. Gowaski. They give you a list of what schools after kindergarten you want your kid to go to. I pick Horizons. But there's a problem with the bus. What's your name, ma'am? Okay, Carolyn, maybe? Okay, so this is for you. So I want to use my words wisely. I will not keep tolerating my child being bullied on a bus. My child is a brown girl. She's gonna have problems already. I try to keep her self-esteem high as possible, but I want her to express to you some of the things that she's called. Some children tell male little boys on the bus, tell them to sit on their lap. I don't want my daughter sitting on no young man's lap. I don't think that first graders should be on a bus with fifth graders. The bus is terrible. The bus is too much going on in the bus, and the driver cannot pay attention to every child on the bus because she has to stay focused on driving to make sure my child comes home safely. But I would like my child to just tell you a couple of things that she's hearing on the bus that's told to her. Step up here. Tell them your name.
My name is London Johnson.
And what grade are you in?
First grade.
And who's the best principal in the world?
Miss Kowalski.
Okay, so can you explain some of the bad words, and I'll give you permission to say it, that the children say to you on that bus?
One of the person on the bus called me a bitch.
And what else?
And a stupid.
And what else?
And he told me to suck kiss.
So let me explain something to everybody that's sitting here. I won elections, I door knock, I do a lot of things, and this has to stop immediately. This is no, every day she come home, I ask her, how was your day on the bus? I drive her to school in the morning to break some of the ice on the bus so that she has a straight mind when she goes to school in the morning. But when she comes home in the afternoon, I be wanting to fight parents because of the stuff that they're doing to my child. So what I do is I call Mr. Gawaski and the new assistant principal. They're on it. But there's times where my daughter was spit on. And when I went to the parent, this child now was on a big bus. They need to be in a smaller setting because of the behavior. I'm not letting nobody in the Board of Education label my child for nothing. I brought her into speech therapy. Hold on a minute. I brought her in speech therapy when she was 3 years old so that when she went to school, when she turned 4, they could understand her, so that they won't be labeling her. And the first thing they do is say they want to put our black and brown kids in special education. I was a product of special education when I was younger. One parent said medication, the other parent said no medication. And the school district said, well, we got to give her medication. Will you medicate these kids? When I was medicated, when I was in school, I slept all day, so I didn't learn anything. So we have to find another alternative. Instead of putting these kids on medication, instead of labeling them, her name is London Johnson. I refuse to let her be labeled in your school system. It's not a great system. I'm hearing all these stuff about teachers. I thought Horizon was the best. That's why I didn't put her in GAMS, because I heard it was a terrible school. I'm not knocking nobody, but she has one more thing she would like to say.
Everybody have a great day.
Oh. So I am requesting, even I will be able to maybe volunteer in the afternoons for the school bus. Mr. Gawaski is a great principal. Again, anytime I have a problem, he now deals with it, because we had one incident that I had to talk to him, but just please get some matrons on the buses.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Boyd? No? Can you tell me your first name? Sataran. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here as a stakeholder. I thank God I don't have a child school age anymore, because what I'm seeing now is alarming. I'm going to give you a little history about myself. I have 25 years in the government, part Department Homeland. Part-time, people thought I was a child protective service person, but I worked for Safe Horizon part-time, domestic violence counsel. I had to pull kids out of their homes on a part-time basis from conditions seeing horrific. But what's going on here, you have a group of people that is sitting here tonight that care about their kids, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be here. They're good parents, good uncles, good fathers, good mothers, good aunts. I'm a stakeholder. I pay my school taxes. That's why I'm here. I was silent for a long time, but you are going to be seeing my face at every meeting, just like I'm at the community council meetings. I'm the chairwoman of the Police Review Board. When people don't want to speak, I'm their voice. It is outrageous. Today, we had 14 children die, senseless, and one teacher. So if you think you could come into the school and teach and it won't happen to you, it can. So protect the children and protect yourselves and do something about this, because the schools are responsible for who they hire as bus companies. And I had to run a few of them off my block, because I'm the squeaky wheel and I get the oil, because they were parking, They are outrageous because of COVID. Everything is used as COVID because we can't get matrons because nobody wants to work. But you can get bus drivers, and the bus drivers that they are picking and the school that is getting the contracts with these buses need to do better. The kids are not wearing seat belts on the buses. There are no matrons on the buses. Ms. Johnson came to me, and I made her come tonight because it should not be where the small children are integrated with middle school kids. We got to do better. You need to do better. We have the money too. Why isn't there a daycare when you guys have meetings for parents to come out more? People don't show up at these meetings because they don't have anyone to watch their children at night when they come to these meetings. You guys should have a facility set up for people to come and have their kids here while they're attending these meetings, unless you don't want a crowd. That's the only way I can see this going down. I'm looking at this board. My son is a grown man. He's a veteran, military police officer, graduate, 2 major degrees from Plattsburgh University, and I was a single mom. And I understand exactly what they're going through as single parents. I did it. It's no fun, but we do it day to day. Everyone's not blessed to have 2 family members of a parent in the same household. So let's wake up, let's do better, let's have compassion, let's have a heart, and let's get this together, because the Board of Ed here has the money to do a lot of things. Do it. Let's get it done. Because no child should worry about going home at night, whether they're going to go home and see their parents. No parent should worry about whether I'm going to be able to pick up my child and everything's okay. And because I don't have a school kid, doesn't mean every resident that's paying school taxes as me, a stakeholder, and I sit on 6 boards and committees, and I'm all over through Newburgh. I'm also on the Wyona Lakes, which we give an NFA scholarship to a senior every year for the last 3 years. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and I'm doing it for the community. So we got to do better. We need to do better. I'm a stakeholder. I pay my taxes, so I'm going to be here, and I'm going to speak up until things get done.
There's one more person that's signed up, so I'd like to ask, if that's okay, if we could have Ms. Giselle Martinez speak. So please come.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for granting me the 5 minutes. I'm Council Member Giselle Martinez. I was newly elected in January. This is actually my first time meeting the board. I do know a few of you. I voted for some of you, and I'm actually here tonight to respectfully request some open communication. From my understanding, I'm not sure how it was done in the past, but I would really love to open communication with the school board and the city council. We had some of the family members here tonight go to our city council meeting, and my intention is not to step on anyone's toes. My intention is to collaborate with the school board and see what we can do to better help our families. Some of the incidents that they talked about the other night regarding the students and the 7-year-old, I'm going to be fully transparent. I don't know all the details, but I do think that's a problem. I'm an elected official, and I haven't received any type of communication. And if I haven't received those details, I can only imagine how the families must feel, because they're the ones involved in this. And Miss Allen had said something last night that really stuck with me. I don't want our families to feel like we're playing hot potato. I don't want them to feel like, oh, it's the school board, or oh, it's the city council, or oh, it's the police department. again, I know that we're two separate entities, but I definitely feel that we should be collaborating and having that open line of communication so we can at least get back to our families, be transparent with them, and let them know, hey, I know that there's a protocol. There's certain things that even us as council members aren't allowed to talk about, especially if it's an open investigation. But our families do deserve some type of communication where, even if it's private with the families, you know, letting them know, hey, this is being resolved or this is being under investigation right now. We can't give you these details, but rest assured that we're investigating it. There are some things. Thank you. There are some things that, you know, I as a council member will never tolerate, and that's racial discrimination. And I'm 100% sure that every member on this board feels the same way. There are certain things that I trust your judgment that it will not get swept under the rug, but I really ask that issues relating to racial discrimination get prioritized and that get investigated thoroughly. I really just don't want to let down our families. I don't want to let down our children. You know, I'm a proud product of the NECSD. You know, I went to Meadow Hill, K through 8. I went to NFA, and even in school, even though it's not your fault that I was, you know, I did suffer discrimination, I did suffer racism, but it is, I feel, the school's responsibility, the city government's responsibility to address these issues and to move forward together to prevent other students from going through what some of our students have been facing. And again, like I mentioned, I don't know the full details because I know that this is an open investigation, but if whatever had happened specifically with the 7-year-old, I would definitely like to be involved or at least be looped into what type of repercussions the art teacher will be facing if that was something that, you know, once the investigation is wrapped up, because I do feel that people have to be held accountable. And again, I'm here to collaborate with everyone, and I would love to maybe set something up in the summer to see how we can better move forward, especially on gun violence. I also work for the state government, and we're, you know, my boss has been working on different work summits. I know Mary Lou was there for the Workforce Development Summit. We have to work on programs that will keep our students engaged and, you know, help them succeed. And after today's ceremony for the athletic department, it's clear that we have kids that have so much potential. They need the resources. So with that being said, I'm going to yield the rest of my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to now move on to the rest of our agenda. Excuse me? Go ahead. Mr. Forget wants to say something.
I think it's important that the community knows that what we heard we're going to take seriously. We will be reaching out. I'll work with the board to discuss what you're stating. Ms. Martinez, we heard you loud and clear. Thank you. The farmers reached out as well. We look forward to improved communication and collaboration. Ms. Palmer will be reaching out to you as well. We took what you said to heart. I took what you said to heart. I don't want to speak for others. And we appreciate the involvement, and we appreciate you being here and being that voice that we need to hear. So we'll be reaching out to you very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forget. We're going to move on to board committees. And since Mr. Howard is not here, I'll be speaking about the policy committee. The policies that we talked about are on the agenda today. We have first reading of comprehensive and resolution to adopt, first reading comprehensive student attendance, and then we have first reading of anti-nepotism and conflict of interest. So that's that. Library Committee, Mr. Stridiron.
Thank you, Madam President. The Library Committee met on May 12th. We had a presentation for the Director's Report, and that included the Family Reading Day, construction update, Workforce Development Summit, and all other great happenings at the library. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm chairperson of the Personnel Committee, and all of the items discussed at the Personnel Committee are here on the agenda tonight. We're going to move on to the Buildings and Grounds Committee. That's Mr. Levenstein.
Thank you, Madam President. So the Building and Grounds Committee met May 19th, and we discussed with Mr. Velez window repairs at Bombville Horizons, West Street, and NFA Main. We discussed the Sacred Heart construction update, the NFA Main air conditioning repairs, Gidney Avenue ball field, New Windsor school bus driveway, the old Bombville school building parking area, South Middle School fence, the building management system update, painting schedule update, and NFA heating and cooling pipe issues. And then we also discussed with Mr. Ramjug resolutions 8.1 through 8.3 on tonight's finance agenda. Madam President, I would like to update this month's Audit and Finance Committee meeting report to make known a donation made to the school district by the Dreyer Law Firm. I neglected to bring this item to the public's attention, as this resolution to accept the donation was passed May 10th by the school board as an Audit and Finance agenda item. The Dreyer Law Firm is donating $150 Amazon gift cards to be given to high school students who meet the criteria of improved attendance as determined by building administrators. And we would like to thank them for their support and understanding of how important attendance is for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levenstein, and thank you to the Dreyer Corporation. That's really the Dreyer Law Firm. Thank you. So we're going to move on to my section, and I want to take just a brief moment to talk about the superintendent search. We're at a very crucial point, and we're hoping to come to some closure by soon, I hope by Thursday. And I guess that's all I have to say on the superintendent search. It's been an interesting ride. So we're going to move on to item 5.2, and that's the resolution to adopt policy on the first read, number 5100, comprehensive student attendance. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Second. Questions or discussion? Yes, Mr. Stradar, and then Ms. Burton.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question about the RISE program. From what I understand, it's still virtual. Is that true? Could you explain to me why some of our most vulnerable students are in a virtual environment and not in the schools? These are students that really need to be in school and not virtual.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. At this time, we will take that into consideration and see if we can transfer those students back. That's what we'll do at this point. We can move them back.
Mr. Stradar.
That's a great question. How many students are in the RISE program? Just curious, roughly.
The attendance varies. It depends on if students are recommended for suspension. So it's a kind of a moving number.
But I do have a question on the attendance policy. So
go ahead, sir.
The major change in the policy regarding who can or when you can change the attendance, is that, can you explain what the change is?
Ms. Peterson?
So some of the changes in the policy were related to COVID. We had to take some of the COVID language out. At the bottom of page 1, it talks about virtual learning and attendance practices. There's also language in the policy that talked about the amount of time. So we're reverting to pre-pandemic language about the amount of time. So if you look in the policy previous, you'll see that it says beyond 10 days, we're just reactivating that language.
So the policy states that the attendance cannot be changed no later than 10 days after the report cards have been distributed to the parents. So is that quarterly?
The attendance may not be corrected. So
correct.
And it corrected as a result of a data error. And this correction can be made no later than 10 days after the report card has been issued.
So how come last year that the teachers were asked to change attendance months after the report cards have been issued by memory?
So last year, we definitely were in a COVID and virtual environment. As explained to the board at that time, virtual attendance, there were some concerns around the accuracies as reported by parents that the attendance was not always correct. So we felt it was important to have teachers re-verify because they are the keepers of the attendance record for their classrooms. We wanted that to be re-verified because we had gotten several reports from parents saying that the attendance was not accurate. And what our goal is to always have accurate attendance data.
So wouldn't that have been a violation of the policy, though?
At that time, it was within the quarter. So I think when the initial re-verification was asked, and then we came up with a schedule, and if the board wants to see that, when those attendance errors were requested, it was within the marking period. So teachers were then put on a schedule that if there's a report card that goes out, that we ask them to verify and look at the attendance, and that's still the same practice that we use today. So that before a report card goes out, we're asking them to verify and look at their attendance.
But the email actually specifically stated to the beginning of the year. So that statement is not accurate. So I would like to at some point look at that and to see if policies were violated by asking teachers to change records that were months old. And then if those teachers did not change those, then the administrators made the changes, which would have been in violation of the policy. Attendance, to me, is very, very important. If you start messing with the attendance records, then what else are you going to mess with? So I would really like to take a look at that and do a real good audit.
Mr. Forget.
So just so we hear you correctly, that's for the 2020-2021 school year?
Last year, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this policy? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Maida?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
No.
Ms. Burton?
We're voting on the policy.
What he just said, so what does that mean? Is the policy going to be changed?
No, they're just doing some research into whether the policy was.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 5.3, and this is the first read of a new policy, and it's the anti-nepotism policy. Questions or discussion on this policy? No, we don't need a motion because it's just the first read. Yes, Mr. Stradone.
So I'm reading this policy. It doesn't really address hiring practices. It only discusses after the person's been hired. So can we get a policy that also includes hiring practices based on any kind of relationships, family, or anything like that?
Mr. Forget or Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I believe we have one. I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw.
That could be reviewed. There are statutory provisions, though. For example, under the ed law, hiring a blood relative of a board member requires a 2/3 vote. Under the civil service law general municipal law, section 800, a relative of a board member can be hired based upon a simple quorum vote, and there's no conflict of interest. It's not even cognizable the way the law is written. So I guess the question is, what would you be looking for in a hiring policy with respect to relationships?
I'm basically looking for not hiring people based on who they are, but based on their qualifications. I want fairness in the hiring process, not hiring someone's friend that you went to college with that wasn't even certified. That's what I mean. That's nepotism. That has to stop.
Thank you. We can look into that, Mr. Stradone. We're going to move on to item 5.4, and that's the first read of policy 9220.1 and conflict of interest. Questions or discussion? Anybody? Thank you. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Secondary, Mrs. Soto.
Good evening, Madam President. Our division presents to you Agenda Item 6.1 for the Board's consideration and consent.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Maida?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridarn?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Ms. Green?
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my items for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Soto. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Exceptional Learners, Mr. Bayer.
Thank you, Madam President. The Exceptional Learner Division has one item for the Board's consideration, the approval of the CSE and CPSC committees.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion on this item? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Maida? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridarn?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Mr. Baer. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Ms. Roaring.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to bring before you this evening items 8.1 to 8.3 for consent.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? Yes, sir?
All three, please.
Okay. So we'll start with 8.1. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion on 8.1? Yes, Mr. Stridarn.
So the original contract for this vendor, or this contractor, was $1.7 million. Did that contract include only rock removal, or are there other items in that contract?
We're going to have to research that one because Mr. Ramjug is not here.
Okay, so the original contract is $1.7 million. The change order is for $300,000 to remove rock. So this came up a couple months ago regarding what to do with the rock. So we're paying someone $300,000 to move the rock where? And what are they going to do with the rock? Are they going to sell it and make money? Where we, as a district, could take the rock, store it on the Chestnut Street property, and sell it ourselves and get some money back.
Thank you. Mr. Velez, would you like to help us with that one, please?
The rock has not been removed from the site. The rock is in our property at West Street. We're going to reuse the rock for the roads and all that. As a district, we have taken some of the rocks to repair some fields that we have problems with drainage. So when they call it the removal of the rock, this is blasting rock that was underground. There were two big boulders, but the rock had not been moved off-site. It's all at NFA, behind our NFA. It's all there.
$300,000? That seems like a lot of money. Did we have to rebid this? If it's such a huge change order, and this is...
I think I went to the meeting yet on Monday, and they had on the bottom, and if people that were at the meeting, I think Mr. Forget was at the meeting and Mr. Velez, they had on the bottom that they anticipated having a certain amount of additional money for this rock removal, but it wasn't that amount of money. It wasn't $300,000. It wasn't.
I mean, the project is $7 million over budget, so there's no extra money. I'm just concerned.
Mr. Shaw.
Right. What was the justification for the change order?
Do you remember, Mr. Levenstein, because you were at that meeting also?
Yeah. Well, the work was done. The work was done, and it needed to be done, and the group advised that this was going to come forward, that there was X amount of rock. They don't know how much rock because it's underground. and how much work needed to be done. And all of those, I believe, all those trucks were counted as they were hauling rock out. But I believe that getting someone from the Palumbo group to explain it would, as he explained it to us on Monday, why this figure was there, would be best to understand it.
So why aren't these meetings public? If it's expenditure of taxpayer money, I don't understand why the public can't see these meetings.
Exactly.
We agree, Mr. Strickland. We can start to do those public meetings on a separate night or an additional night. Be happy to do that.
Is there a requirement to have these meetings public if they're deciding on expenditure of the capital bond money?
I believe they're just monitoring the implementation of the timeline. But we are more than happy to have these meetings fully in public. We'll coordinate that right away.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Stradarn, if you still have questions, which we do, could you table this item? Would you,
Postpone. It's been discussed already. Postpone.
postpone it?
Yeah, motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone.
I make a motion to postpone.
I need a second. Second. Roll call to postpone, please.
Ms. Maida? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridarn? Yes. Ms. Burton? Yes. Ms. Green? Yes. Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes.
We're going to move on to item 8.2. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Stradarn.
I'm wondering if the clerk could put up the letter from the architect. That's a link so that the public can read it. So basically it says, as a result of recent labor and material inflation and owner requested scope increases beyond the original pre-referendum scope, the gymnasium portion of the project was estimated to be approximately $7 million over budget. So my question is, first question is, how much is the budget for the gymnasium at the CTE building? If the entire budget is $60 million, how much is the gymnasium portion of the budget?
Mr. Strickland, I don't have those exact numbers for you. I can tell you that the work to redesign the gymnasium was done to scale it back to a physical education instructional space as opposed to an event space, which was originally what we created and went out to the taxpayers for.
So you're saying that the taxpayers knew that it was going to be an event space? That's not what I remember.
That is
the original proposal was an arena, but that got thrown out in very preliminary. Then it became an educational.
What you just said is the opposite of what I said. I agreed with you.
Okay. So
we reverted it back to a physical education space and pared it way back from what the original plans were drawn.
$7 million for a gymnasium? When, they're talking about glass curtain wall exteriors, second, 2-level floors. That seems like overkill for a gymnasium. That looks more like you're going to host a concert.
That is not what's being proposed now.
Yeah. But that's why I'm asking, what's the budget for the gym? Because if we're going to spend, say the original budget was $20 million for the gymnasium, that means $40 million for the other educational spaces. That you're 50%, 40% over budget for the gym. I want to know what the over budget is for everything else, because I think the capital bond is out of control, way out of control. And I would like to see, no decisions to be made on any of this capital bond until we have a new superintendent involved.
Okay, so can you hang on? I'm going to call on Dr. Henderson and then, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'm just kind of concerned as well. It seems like we're at least 20% over budget on, many of the capital bond projects. Are all of our contractors who we had agreed upon with going to claim inflation and want the bids changed, or did they underbid the project and then a pandemic occurred? You know what I mean? Like, this is not a great situation, and I just think that there has to be some type of responsibility on the contractors as well if they didn't bid correctly or if they underbid it. It's my understanding, typically, if a contractor underbids the work, you take the loss on it. You complete the work that you're contracted to do, and you take the loss. So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. I think the next time we'll have the CPL and the Palumbo group here to give you a quick presentation with the way the bids are coming back. They are coming back way over, and some of it is a supply and demand issue, and some of it is COVID related, and some of it is we needed to scale back on what was originally drawn in those plans to get it back to what was the original intent of this project. And that's what we've been working on for the past six months, I would say.
Yes, sir.
Can we find out how much the architect charged to design the entire CTE building? Because to redesign the gym, they want to charge $314,000. That, to me, seems outrageous.
We'd be happy to get that for you.
So we have a motion on the floor. So asking your questions have raised some serious concerns. Do we want to postpone this one also until we have the people here that can answer the questions more, with more detail?
I would like the new superintendent to sit down with everybody before we move on with any kind of plans. So I would make a motion to postpone.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Second. Roll call to postpone?
Ms. Mineo?
Yes?
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Yes. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Maida?
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 8.3. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion on 8.3? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Yes. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Maida? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Ms. Roaring. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Madam President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have items 9.1 through 9.17 for your consideration on tonight.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? Yes, sir?
9.2, please.
9.2. Any others? I'd like to entertain a motion on all but 9.2, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion on those? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Burton? Yes. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Maida? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes?
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
We're going to move on to item 9.2. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion? Yes, sir.
It's just a statement that, again, with more directors, this position may be fine, the person is fine. I just, at this point, adding a new director before a new superintendent comes on, I believe the new superintendent should decide what the structure of the leadership should look like. So I'm going to be voting no on this.
Mr. Forget?
This is not an additional position. This is a repurposing of an existing position from the Director of AIS to the Director of Elementary.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this item? Roll call. Oh, yes, Ms. Green, sorry.
So this person is a director already, they're just moving from one director position to another one?
No, we repurposed the position itself, reposted it as the Director of Elementary. This individual was the recommended candidate for that position.
So
It was a
we'll-
vacant position. in
Oh, it's a
Director.
vacant position, okay.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Green? No. Dr. Henderson?
No.
Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Maida?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
No.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
That item fails.
That concludes my items, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McLemore. We're going to move on to the Clerk of the Board, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the approval of the minutes from May 7th, May 10th, May 18th.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion on these items? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Dr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Maida? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Ms. Green?
Yes.
That concludes my items, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose: employment history of particular individuals, matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Yes. Ms. Green? Yes. Dr. Henderson? Yes. Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Maida? Ms. Mineo?
Yes. We may be doing business when we return, but I'm not sure. So I would say we may. Thank you.